Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the rest of the tune, Autumn Leaves. So we kind of worked out all the changes or the chords we need for the beginning of the song, and kind of the A part goes through the first, is it 8 bar? I think it's 8 bars, and then repeats and basically does the same thing again. The melody's a little bit different, but the bass part doesn't change for the first or second ending. Then it goes into the B part, which for the most, at the beginning anyway, it's the same chords that's in the A part. You're just doing them in slightly different order. Uh, until you get to the second to last line. Second to last line starts out with like a F sharp minor flat five to B dominant. And then the next two measures right there are what we want to talk about. So we got an E minor 7, an E flat dominant 7, followed by a D minor 7, followed by a D flat dominant 7. Okay, so if we just did the arpeggios, it would look like that. The other so it's switching types of chords, and the root note is descending down each time. After this, the next chord is going to be C, and then B, and then it goes back to E for the last part. But this, going back to this, the E minor, E flat, D flat part. Let's look at how you could do this. We only have 2 beats on each chord now, though, so it doesn't take up, each chord doesn't take up the whole measure, so we only have 2 beats on it. So I got E, E flat, D, D flat. If we're just playing the roots, it would go something like that. If we're playing, say it was like a country song, we're doing these changes, 1 and 5. So E minor, there's the 1 and 5 from an E minor, an E dominant, same 1 and 5. So I could just pull this down. They both have the same type of 5, so you could just basically play power chords down. They also have the same type of 7th. A minor or dominant. Both have that 7th directly beneath the root. So I could go root 7, root 7, root 7, root 7. And then the next chord, you have a whole measure to play it. So once we get to C, you'll switch back to the full arpeggio. But if we're playing at a certain kind of rhythmic pace, if we tried to fit that 1, 3, 5, 7 into this part, it would be kind of a little bit too busy to throw all that stuff in there. Probably end up being kind of sloppy for me anyway, unless you practiced it. So we could do 1, 5, 1, 7. Those are all pretty easy. But if we did 1 to 3, that's basically what's the difference between these types of chords. We got dominant chords and we got minor chords in here. If you look at E minor and E dominant, they all have the same notes except the third changes. And there's other ways to play the third. You can play it like a minor third. You can do this distance up 1 string, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a minor third. You could also get it on the next string at this distance. If you're just playing 1 and 3, it's a little bit easier to do it there. It's a little closer together. You got 3 frets, 2 frets. So you could also play the major several different ways. You got major, minor, major, minor, minor, major, minor, major. So having those options on, do you want to play the third on the same string or on the next string? You want to be real familiar with what those shapes look like. Minor third, major third, minor third, major third. So if we have both those types here, this is kind of cool. Or say if we didn't have both those types, we'd be going, and I wanted to do a root third pattern through this section of the E, E flat, D, D flat, minor, dominant, minor, dominant. I would go E minor, D, dominant, E minor, D, dominant. It's kind of a lot of hand switches. It's not too bad. It's doable. Or if I move the minor third to there, when I go to the next one with a major third, it's the same note. So that makes that part kind of really, it's a fun little thing to do there. Plus it kind of highlights a different way to play that minor third, which is pretty useful. Usually if I'm going to have to play a 1, 3, and 5, I'm going to play the minor third up here because that's a 4 fret stretch right here. But if I only have to play the minor third, it's a little bit easier to grab it there oftentimes. Not always, sometimes depending on what you're playing. So with that, hopefully that'll kind of help you get through some of the tricky spots of that song. And a lot of this idea, playing the thirds this way, is kind of the whole strategy through Satin Doll as well. Because Autumn Leaves has a lot of where you're playing on one measure, the chord gets the whole measure through a lot of the song, except for this little part right here. Satin Doll has a lot more of 2 chords per measure, so where you're only playing. You don't have time to get through the whole arpeggio, so we're just going to be kind of selecting which notes we want to play. Generally you want to start with the root, and then what's left over you can, first choice is usually chord tones, then we can get outside of that eventually, and look what happens when you don't play chord tones, and that can be fun too. Alrighty, so until next time.